Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With more than 25 flavors, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day for half-price cups of tea. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say drink tea, be happy.
Now, from Wichita's most listened to sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH. This is Sports Daily with Jacob Albracht and Tommy Castor.
All right, welcome in, everybody. It is Sports Daily, and we are glad to be with you live on this Wednesday. Getting you ready for an NBA Finals, taking a look at the Royals and where they stand. Is it time to panic a little bit with the Royals? I think it probably is, but we'll try to not do too much of that today. We'll get into it as they let one go yesterday. One slips through their fingers, one they should have had. We'll take you through that a little bit. It is Jacob Albracht alongside Paul Savage today. Tommy will do his best to join us in just a little bit. Thanks for tuning in on KFH. As always here, 97.5 FM, 1240 AM. Thanks for listening to us if you are on our audio stream, kfhradio.com. Thanks for tuning into our video stream. If you're doing that, that's available to you on Facebook, on YouTube, and on X. Just go to the KFH page. I just reposted that video stream. If you haven't taken the show in that way, if you're driving around and have to get out of the car soon, that's a great way to do it. It's a great way to interact with the show. You can leave us your comments there, and we'll see them. You can also give us a call on the IHOP hotline at 869-1240, brought to you by IHOP. Appreciate their support of the show. Appreciate your support of the show. Paul, good morning. How are you this morning?
I'm good, big boy. How you doing? And by the way, let's just get this out of the way. I'm looking for a recommendation. Joe Rocco and I are going up into the northeast part of this city. I need a recommendation real quick. H2O. Hit me.
HTO. Well, I'll tell you one. I was just looking through. Right. Here's one for you. I was just looking through some pictures and stuff, taking a look at some of the things we've got going on the back end there. And I saw a picture, and this seems like it'd be right up your alley, Paul. How about a half strawberry passion, half pink lemonade latte? Oh, so that's what you ask for. Oh. You put whipped cream and strawberries on there.
Wow.
That's my recommendation for you.
Wow. See, I'm glad
Strawberry passion, pink lemonade latte with whipped cream and strawberries.
Well, that's
the thing.
Jad's laughing. He thinks, Jad, you like that? Because it sounds tremendous, doesn't it?
It sounds great, and it's you, Paul. It's just you right down to the.
It's totally you. You got your totally BA Hawaiian on in there. You and Joe rocking up, sharing that bright pink. It'd be great.
That's something. Well, I always like to bring this up because you know what happens. We get busy on this show, and then I forget to bring it up. So there you go. Thank you for taking a moment on behalf of Joe Rocco and myself. I just say thank you very, very much.
Oh, well, hey, and speaking of, let's get festive here. We've got a contest for you right now to win some HTO yourself.
Oh, cool.
It's good for
I like that.
Iced tea, for free reign coffee. Got all the coffee drinks in there, too. More than 25 flavors of tea. All the different kinds of coffee drinks, plus some specialty coffee drinks. You can get your hands on some free ones right now by texting the keyword tea, T-E-A, to the short code 20357. You can enter this contest once a day. But again, if you want to win some free HTO available to you in East or West Wichita or in Derby, just text the keyword T, T-E-A, to 20357. Good luck there. We'll have another contest for you on that text line. Win some tickets later to a comedy show coming up here to town. We'll do that in the second hour. Coming up on the show otherwise today, we'll talk about the Royals, of course, we mentioned there. I want to get Paul's take. Look, we're now 3 days in a row where we've got WNBA in the headlines.
Wow.
And it has been a fascinating experience to try and, digest all of this, what's happening. So we'll take a look at that, get you the latest drama there. And I've contended all week, the more drama right now, the better. Keep it coming if you're the WNBA. You want this. You want in the headlines. Over on the men's side, we'll take a little bit of a preview, a stab at it anyway, at the NBA Finals.
Yeah.
Mavs Celtics.
Yeah.
We'll look at some bets. I have become pretty dang excited for this finals. I think you've got an historically good regular season team with star players all over against a team that a lot of people wrote off with two of the best players in the world. And I think this will be a collision course. I think it's
Good.
sizing up to be a long series. So we'll get into that a little bit as well.
I'm with you.
Christian McCaffrey and the 49ers continue to buck the trends. They give him even more money. He was already the top guy, but they give him even more. We'll talk about that a little bit and what that means. And are they doing the right thing there? But I think it's fascinating as most teams are going away from running back. The 49ers, who've been to a lot of Super Bowls recently, continue to emphasize that position. All of this, and again, that IHOP hotline is available for you to chime in at 869-1240. I want to say thank you here to Prairie Fire Coffee for always keeping us fueled up, fired up, ready to go on Sports Daily.
Got it right here, big boy. It's right here in my hand. There it is.
Paul, let's start with the Royals. That was a tough one yesterday. Probably the toughest loss of the season, at least emotionally.
Yep.
You needed to sort of get off to this brutal 20-game stretch or so with a bang. You had the opportunity. You took a 3-0 lead. Lugo was cruising early, and then the wheels sort of fell off. Now, I'm going to take partial blame for this, Paul, because Tommy and I, we saw plus money for the Royals yesterday with Seth Lugo, and we typically pounce at that. And right about the time he was cruising there, I said, Tommy, I don't know if you're watching, but let's go Seth Lugo and that plus money. And then the wheels sort of fell off, and then their 5-0 lead kind of started to evolve. So I'll take some jinxing blame for this, but
thank you.
In more reality terms, Lugo didn't give him what he needed to. It was a good start, and then it sort of unraveled. I think you could say, all things considered, it was his worst start of the year. They had a 5-0 lead. They had every opportunity, and they couldn't hold it. And they give up 5 runs in the 7th inning, and Bobby Witt Jr. had a big error there in the big 5-run inning, and 3 runs scored on an infield grounder. Bobby Witt Jr. took the blame. He also had 2 home runs in the game. But that was I think, Paul, that was the toughest loss of the year emotionally. On paper, to blow a big lead against that team, to now you're not coming out of this series any better than 3 games back, going into a stretch where you play, the Yankees, Seattle, and Dodgers over your next 10 games. That's a brutal one, and they have got to bounce back quickly and not let this unravel on them. If this series does not go well, it could alter the trajectory of this entire season, Paul. There is a lot of pressure now, and there was going into yesterday, even more now, to get this thing back turned around. And one of these games is going to be a Daniel Lynch game. So now you've got Brady Singer on the mound, who hasn't pitched in a while because he got sick. This is pretty high intensity, your butt puckering baseball here for Royals fans over the next 2 days.
Right. And of course, the interesting thing on this game last night, if you watched any of it, was playing poker last night with some of my buddies. We were able to get a little bit of baseball in the background, and it's kind of fun to do that. But with that being said, I felt so bad for Bobby Witt. Bobby Witt has put this team on its back, in essence, many, many, many games. And Bobby Witt had a great night. I mean, you look at his line, literally batted in 2 home runs, 2 hits, 4 RBI. I mean, he literally carried this baseball team to victory if they could have held that lead towards the end. But, this is that game, and I like the way you phrase this. This is big. This game is big. This series is big. Here's a chance that you can close the gap between you and Cleveland. That's what you want to do. You can't give these kind of games away. But, the duality of this particular game with the offensive game that Bobby Witt had, and we've all seen the play in which he missed the base on turning 2, and then an errant throw to the first base side for what should have been would have been a double play. It's just, horrific to watch. It hurts to watch, particularly for a guy that we love like Bobby Witt. You and I both admire this guy. He is, at this point. The George Brett of the Kansas City Royals. And I say,
you know what?
I say that.
I'm glad you said that.
Well,
hold me to this. Let's talk about what you just said in
Okay.
just a second.
All right.
Go ahead and finish your thought because I've had this thought lately. But go ahead.
Okay. Well, all I'm saying is that, like Bobby or like George Brett, this team has come to rely on Bobby Witt Jr. not only at the bat but in the field, but also in the clubhouse and on the field and the leadership. This guy has a lot going for him. And to see, you have that error where you don't step on second base to turn the 2, and then a bad throw and 3-run score, and they're all on you, and then you end up. And by the way, that was a tied game at that point. I mean, we're talking about a 5-5 game, and then those runs scored, game ends up 8-5. You just feel bad. And something. Here's the thing: you shake that off, and you go get the rest of the Cleveland games. You try to get wins. You get those wins. Although at this point, you probably settle for a split, wouldn't you? At this point.
Well, you're playing 3 games.
Oh,
you
3
mean
games.
split over the next 2?
Yeah.
Split over the next
Well,
2.
yeah.
I mean, at minimum, no. I think you'd like to win. You'd like to win 2, and get it to 3, and not have it be at 5 because of the stretch they're going into.
But that's
so
that's the point. Yeah.
I was thinking about this early in the game as Salvador Perez was, hustling into second and having fun and, doing Salvador Perez things. I wondered with Salvador Perez, and I'll get to Bobby Witt Jr. in this and just saying, but you brought up George Brett, and I'm glad you're here today, our resident historian. I asked this to Brandon Zinner in the office yesterday. I said, what do you think the chances are that Salvador Perez becomes the greatest Royal of all time? Surpasses George Brett.
Mm-hmm.
He's already a Hall of Famer and will likely add a tremendous, if we hope and we would anticipate, I think, that he adds a tremendous number of statistical things to his resume, hopefully, when he is able to extend his career just as a hitter and, play a little first base, play a little DH. What are the chances with his personality, the fact that he's almost certainly going to finish his career as a Royal, all of these things surpasses George Brett as the greatest Royal of all time? And I know that's saying a lot. I'm not trying to knock on George Brett or anything like that, but Salvador Perez, I do think, Paul, is entering that stratosphere. And then after that, more to what you said, you could foresee, even though I think it's probably less likely that Bobby Witt Jr. plays his entire career in Kansas City than Salvador Perez. If he did, you would project out maybe he could be the guy. Is there a chance right now that, it's been unquestioned George Brett forever? Could there be 2 guys on this roster that at least enter that stratosphere and maybe even go a little higher? Paul, what do you think? Well, you've got a better vibe and feel for what George Brett means to Royals fans than I do. Mm-hmm. I'm not from here.
Right.
I didn't grow up a Royals fan.
But it's an interesting, scenario that you bring up. And I just got to say, it's probably human nature that, yes, one of these guys may end up surpassing George Brett. Does that make it right? I don't think it does. George Brett is one of those contact hitters. He had some power, but he was a contact hitter. There were several years where he flirted with batting 400. He was up in that neighborhood. He was just one of the greatest contact hitters of all time. And maybe he wasn't the great power hitters of a Barry Bond or somebody like that, but he was everything and everything to the Royals. He was the Kansas City Royals for more than a decade. And so you look at time, though. Time's kind of funny, isn't it, Jacob? Time makes you forget things. And George Brett is now in his early 70s, and there's a generation now of people who have not seen George Brett play. They don't realize how good he was. I saw him play. Did you ever see George Brett play live? And it's not a trick question. I'm just asking. I don't know if you ever had a chance.
No. I mean,
no?
he finished. Yeah, I mean,
just at that age.
Did.
Yeah.
I did. I for sure did.
Okay.
But not in his prime.
Okay.
I was born in 85. I probably started watching baseball regularly when the Blue Jays and the Braves were in the World Series was at 90. That's really when I started to watch baseball.
Mhm.
And then, it was the problem was the Royals weren't any good. So I would see when they played the Rangers, basically. But yeah, I mean, I caught the back end of George Brett's career.
Well,
for sure. But I was young. I don't know that I knew how to totally appreciate it.
Right. But now you can, and those memories
Oh, sure.
make you feel good. And you saw greatness, and you got to follow to a certain extent best you could at that age. You got to follow the greatness that was George Brett, because not only was he a great baseball player, but he's a great person off the field too. And I can remember year after year, he would come to Wichita. There was a time, Jacob, I think before you got to Wichita, there was a time when he'd come for Rainbows United, this big fundraiser, and it was always right after the season. I mean, after the season. When I say after the season, I mean like several days after the season concluded. And guys are tired, guys are beat up, guys need to get away, guys need to go do their own thing, and yet a number of the Royals would come to Wichita. George Brett was always one of them, one of those guys that would come, and he had this thing with the fans. You didn't get to witness, and here's my fear. Being somewhat of a historian, an amateur historian of the world of sports, I know that Salvador Perez is beloved in Kansas City. I love him. You love him. You can't help but love him. What he accomplishes, what he means to this team, what he means to a clubhouse is unbelievable, and we all know that. Is he the face of the Royals? Well, it's certainly not Bobby Witt Jr. Bobby Witt Jr., if he stays for another decade, will be the face of the Royals, and he will surpass the abilities of Perez in this area of taking control of a team, and being the face of the team, being the heart and soul, as we say. But, I'm afraid that because of human nature, we will forget those that did not see George Brett actually play. And at this point, there's a lot of people like that, including those that are just younger than you, just a little bit younger. They don't know what a great everyday player he was, what it meant to flirt with 400.
Yeah.
I mean, and we're going to forget. There's a generation that it's
there
me,
will be,
right?
And time is a factor in that nobody can control that, right?
Nobody
For
can.
So many Royals fans.
That's right.
It sort of depends on who you watch more. I get that piece of it. And by the way, I think the answer to this question is no.
Oh,
I don't think that Perez will be able to pass. I don't think, and just like from a baseball junkie, like if you look at some of the numbers, the difference is Salvador Perez is a catcher, right? Which is such a premium.
That's right.
But if you're looking at like career WAR, for instance, which is a metric used pretty generally to get George Brett's career WAR was 88.5. Salvador Perez isn't even half of that yet. And that's taking them all and combining them each year. So he's not going to reach that. He's not going to reach his career OPS or whatever that George Brett had. He won't have as many hits. He'll probably have more home runs, more power numbers, potentially. I don't know that he'll catch RBI, but he'll have more home runs. He won't be as good a hitter for average.
No.
He won't get on base as often, although, the numbers he's putting up currently in this season would be, right? And the real question becomes how many years, what do the twilight years of him being a catcher look like for him as a hitter? He's an 8-time All-Star. George Brett was a 13-time All-Star. George Brett has an MVP. They both have a World Series championship. Salvador Perez has more silver sluggers and more gold gloves. So you could, make the case that he's been a better defensive player. And I don't know a lot about George Brett's defense. I'm going to fully admit that right now. Salvador Perez was a World Series MVP. I think that there will be enough there, and it's more about personality and just impact. And I think Perez, to the things you just said about Brett and his impact on the community, Perez is that, right? That's what he is too.
He is too.
So I think I think it's fascinating. And the only reason it makes me so curious, and we would even bring this up, is because the Royals haven't had it since George Brett, right? They haven't had that dude. Zach Greinke is going to be a Hall of Famer, I think, and he would, I would bet you he'd wear a Royals hat. but you never know. But there just haven't been a lot of these type players in the history of the franchise. It's always just been George Brett on this mountain all by himself.
It has.
And it's really like there's no question about it. And what's really interesting is there's a decent chance that you've got two guys on this roster right now that could finally, somebody could join George Brett up there. You got two of them at the same time.
Right. Well, but
in Perez and Bobby Witt Jr.
But Bobby Witt Jr. may not. This is a different world in which we live.
Way too early for that.
Yeah.
With Bobby Witt Jr. But if he does what he's doing right now,
I
for
got
15, 20 years with the Royals, he'll be there.
But does he stay with the Royals? That's the
he's got the,
everybody.
Well,
goes.
I don't know if they can afford it. Right? Yeah, that'll be a story to tell.
Right.
Way down the road. You hope so, but you don't know.
Don't know.
Salvador Perez is probably going to.
He's going to stay.
It would be tragic if he didn't. 869-1240. Ponder that. Let us know what you think. You can. I know we got great Royals fans that always watch the video stream. Let us know. Like, would you foresee Perez and then maybe even Witt finally joining George Brett in that upper stratosphere of Royals history? 869-1240 if you want to chime in on the IHOP hotline. It's Albracht and Savage. It's a Wednesday. We've got Kevin Saul coming top of the hour, we think. We'll get the latest on what's happening with Shocker Athletics now that the dust has settled on everything. How are things looking toward the offseason? Tough transfer portal news for the basketball program yesterday. We can get into all that with Kevin Saul. And we'll talk about everything. It's a busy time in the sports world right now. We'll do it next on Sports Daily.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With more than 25 flavors, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day for half-price cups of tea. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say drink tea, be happy. We have more than 25 flavors. Come try them all for free.
on the Odyssey app. The Royals continue the series in Cleveland tonight. Tune in to KFH at game time. Simply download the Odyssey app and search for KFH. We'll preview that game a little bit later in the show. And we'll leave a sort of open-ended question here that just sort of popped into our heads a little bit. Mine more so. Salvador Perez, Bobby Witt Jr. have a chance. Salvador Perez more immediately to join George Brett in that top upper echelon, whatever you want to call it, of Royals history. What do you think about that? Let us know. 869-1240 on the IHOP hotline. You can also leave those comments on our video stream, which is available Facebook, YouTube, and X. Back to the Royals in a bit. Kevin Saul joins us top of the second hour. Paul, the WNBA remains in the headlines. Been in the headlines every day for a little while now. And I just, we have not had you in. So it's, over the weekend, Caitlin Clark took a hard shot, and then we had reaction to that. And it just sort of has, continued to stay in the headlines a little bit. Then Angel Reese kind of takes exception, saying she's, it's not only Caitlin Clark that people are watching for, and she's had her part too, and she gets kicked out of a game yesterday, and which isn't that big a deal. Caitlin Clark has a bunch of texts this year too. This is so perfect for the WNBA. And the fact that people are arguing and discussing why it is that people are paying attention right now is great. Whatever side, doesn't really matter if you're the WNBA, right? If you're the WNBA, you just want people talking about it.
Right.
I keep comparing this to, because it's the only thing I can think of is Tiger Woods and golf, where you had a whole bunch of people that aren't normally watching something that are all of a sudden watching something, at least at times. And that's the impact Caitlin Clark's had. We don't see this that often in sports. You never know when it's coming. We don't. Like, it's unpredictable when you get this sort of lightning in a bottle. Now, with Clark, we could foresee it a little bit because we saw this phenomenon in college basketball with her. But Steph Curry had this impact, I think, in the NBA. Nobody saw that coming, right? And then all of a sudden it's here, and he revolutionized the game. He brought new fans to the game, like all these types of things. Not to even to the same level, but Tiger, I think, is the easiest comparison. That's what's happening now. And the reality is, Phil Mickelson played at the same time as Tiger. Great. People love Phil Mickelson. But we were all watching golf to watch Tiger, right? Like, there were a lot of interesting characters.
That's right.
But it was Tiger Woods why people were tuning in. Caitlin Clark plays the women's game differently than we've seen anybody else play it. I think that's at the core of it. Is she the greatest player? No, Wick, it's way too early to say stuff like that. But she plays it differently than anybody on the women's side has played it. Just the wild nature of it. Is she the best shooter? No, I don't think she is. But she is the most electric shooter, let's call it, because she's willing to fire from anywhere. That's the part that reminds me of Steph Curry. And I don't really care. I mean, look, I think we're being naive if we sit here and say this attention isn't because of Caitlin Clark. It is, but just embrace that. And then let all this other stuff happen organically. You've got your villains, you got your bad guys, you got people on there firing away because they're just now taking in this, this sport for the first time and all these things. Again, back to the original point for me, if I'm the WNBA, I'm just kicked back like, this could not have gone any better for us. This is perfect.
Right. And the thing that just boggles my mind that I have a hard time grasping is why the other players in the WNBA, why not embrace Caitlin Clark for what she has brought to the league, to women's basketball? Now, I don't mean embrace her like give her a break. I mean, if you want to guard her extra hard, guard her extra hard.
Well, but they're embracing her. They're being hard on a rookie. I don't have any problem with it.
Well, I mean, but on the other hand, you look at this rookie, and you can be hard on her if you want. Right now, they're riding on charter airplanes, aren't they? They go to games. They were commercial before. There's more money being funneled in.
Who cares?
What do you mean? Who cares?
If
I'm a player, I care.
You think her peers should treat her differently? Because I don't think Caitlin Clark would agree with you.
Well, wait a second. There's a difference between being treated the way you need to be treated and cheap shots. In football,
I want
that
you
would
to
have
go.
been a clip.
here's what I want you to do.
All right, please.
Go find the video of Angel Reese getting choke slammed on an offensive rebound, because she did. Like you want to talk about cheap shot? It's a rookie. It's the veterans pushing around a rookie.
Yeah, that was hard to see. I think you may be overcalling that particular. I remember seeing the video. I remember the controversy. It was just a week ago. I'm not sure that whatever clips that I saw
that hip check was far less egregious than Caitlin Clark too.
Well, I don't know about that.
A little hip check.
I mean, from behind. I mean, if this had been
from the side,
if this had been in the NFL, there would have been a flag. There was
a flag. She got in big trouble. She got fined. She got all of that.
Okay,
like it's
okay.
It's fine. Like, again, Caitlin Clark doesn't need our special treatment. Caitlin Clark doesn't want their special treatment. Caitlin Clark needs to worry about, how do I consistently score and not turn the ball over?
Well, and make threes. I mean, I came to this league. I'm basically being paid because I can make threes. I can make threes as good as any female basketball player in history. And why is she not doing? Why is she not better?
She's got to still learn how to take the next step in her career. Of course she does. She's a rookie. Everybody does it. And and I'm sure if you asked her and got a legitimate answer, she's probably like, that's all I care about. Like, I hate that we're losing games. And that I mean, so all this other stuff, and she's always embraced it very well, very humbly, which is important, I think, for her. And of course, there will inherently be jealousy with that. Mm-hmm. And that's okay, because that creates villains. Mm-hmm. Like, again, to me, I think people are getting far too worked up that Angel Reese clearly has her feelings hurt that Caitlin Clark gets all the attention. Mm-hmm. So what? It adds to the appeal of her as a villain. I think for her, and I think she'll, grow up and get used to it. I think it's very hard for us to see her want to be this villain, but then ask for sympathy when people are treating her like a villain. Like, you got to either embrace it or don't do it. Mm-hmm. And she's sort of sometimes, I think, feels like she's a little bit on the fence with it, but I think she's a great part of this overall story. But it's almost like people have said, you either have to say, this is all about Caitlin Clark, or you're wrong, and I'm going to get mad, and I'm going to get, like, of course it's all about Caitlin Clark. It's always been all about Caitlin Clark, but that doesn't mean it's all not contributing to an overall experience that is perfect for the WNBA. Mm-hmm. What you're hoping is the attention that Caitlin Clark naturally brings with it will bring more people to the game, generally speaking, mm-hmm. and you just grow the popularity of your league that way. Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's what happened with golf, Paul. Like, golf had this explosion on the coattails of the Tiger Woods phenomenon.
It did. That is correct.
And that's the best case scenario if you're the WNBA. You take this phenomenon of Caitlin Clark and all the people that come with her, and you hope that it creates an explosion for your league overall. Maybe you've got a fan in a town that comes to see the home team because Caitlin Clark's on the other team, and they realize they had a great time, and now maybe they come to home games more often. Like, it takes time. It's going to take time. But what I don't think is going to happen, and this is, again, why I think it's been perfect for the WNBA, I don't see this going away. When Clark got drafted, Paul, I didn't know, because women's college basketball is its own awesome thing that people watch a lot of, right? I don't think you could, and I don't know this. I have no idea. I don't have any numbers. I'm guessing at this. I would guess that it's not a direct translation, right, of women's college basketball fans to the WNBA, just like it's not a translation of men's college basketball fans to the NBA. No, tons of people that watch college basketball that don't watch a lot of NBA anymore. That's me. I don't watch until we get to this point of the season. I'm watching more. So I think that was my biggest question, is, can the college basketball phenomenon that Caitlin Clark had created translate over? Well, the short answer now, what are we, 15 games into this, is it can, and it has, and it is. And so if you know that, then you could surmise it's probably not going away, unless Caitlin Clark just does not live up to the hype as a player. It's probably not going away. and they just need to keep capitalizing it. And that's where all these other great players step in. Like, you need villains, you need heroes, anti-heroes. Her teammates need to embrace it. Like, all those things can happen now, and it's all going to be good. This has all been good. Even when people try to pretend like they're just so mad that, not enough respect's being given to Caitlin Clark, or it's not all about Caitlin. Like, who cares? Like, whatever you think, I don't care what you think. I just know all that attention one way or the other, that's good for the league.
Well, but you bring up college transition into the pros, particularly in the WNBA. Listen, Iowa is a big university. It has a lot of alumni. It has a lot of followers. And there are a certain amount of people that are going to follow Iowa basketball with a Caitlin Clark, partly because Iowa is the key denominator in that situation. And you're going to get a lot of eyeballs on it. Now, does that mean they're going to translate to the WNBA? Well, it helps that she went next door into Indiana. That does help. I will say that. She's still regional. She's still big. It's still important to that region, and it's important to women's basketball. But part of the translation, at least with regards to women's basketball, is the fact that there's a lot of people that just love Iowa. And if the volleyball team was competing for a national championship, there'd be a lot of people loving Iowa volleyball or soccer, whatever the case might be. I don't know, but I got some advice.
She's way more than.
Okay, let me get.
It wouldn't matter where she's playing.
If Caitlin Clark called me and said, "Paul, what should I do? How would you handle this?" I'd say, "Caitlin, go get you some film on Pete Maravich." And why do I say that? Because was there ever a basketball player at the college, particularly the college level, that was ridiculed, made fun of, distracted, hollered at, you name it? Pete Maravich got it his 3 years at LSU. Go get some of that. See how he handled that. And if one of these days we get a little time, I got a great story on Pete Maravich and how he quieted crowds, particularly on the road. He's a fascinating guy, but that's who I would say go see how he handled hostile crowds and hostile players.
She's good.
Right.
It's all good. I love it all. It's all good. And here we are, day 3, and
still talking about
this week where it is perfect for the league, and I hope it helps them grow. 869-1240 is the number there for you. What about this Christian McCaffrey contract? We'll get into that. K-State adds a big time, figuratively and literally, transfer. The Hoops program sort of completing their class. We'll talk about that as well. A lot to get into on this Wednesday edition. Albracht and Savage coming right back.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With more than 25 flavors, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite, or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day for half-price cups of tea. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say, drink tea, be happy. We have more than 25 flavors. Come try them all for free.
Welcome back, everybody. Sports Daily here on KFH. Glad to be with you. Jacob Albracht, Paul Savage on a Wednesday. Paul, Christian McCaffrey gets a big deal. A running back gets a big deal. Running backs don't ever get big deals, it seems like, except for Christian McCaffrey. A record-setting contract extension for $38 million over 2 years. He's now under contract until he's 31, which is just a little bit older typically than running backs, stay in their prime. But last year, 1,460 yards rushing, 14 touchdowns. They're just sort of, doubling down. He had 2,000 all-purpose yards with 21 touchdowns last year. I mean, the production is obvious, but it's interesting as they have wide receivers with major contract disputes there in San Francisco. As everybody's paying wide receivers, the Niners go the other way. They pay their star running back. What do you make of all this for San Francisco?
I'm not sure that I would say that McCaffrey's getting what he would have gotten, say, 5 or 10 years ago. I mean, in terms of whatever the dollars being spent are right now and value of dollars and that kind of thing. Because let's face it, what was it? 2 days ago? I think about 2 days ago, maybe 3 days ago, Justin Jefferson signed a contract for $140 million, $35 million a year. But the key to that is 110 of that $140 million, 110 of it's guaranteed. I've looked. I can't find any word about what's guaranteed with Christian McCaffrey. Of course, it's just a 2-year extension, and that's added on to what he has now. And he basically has about 4 years on his contract at this point. But with that being said, I'm just amazed at what this guy is worth to the 49ers. And he's worth a lot, in my opinion. Worth a lot.
Do you think do you think they're doing the right, they've been in trade talks with Deebo Samuel. They're not going to cave to Brandon Ayuk, I don't think. So they're choosing McCaffrey over the receivers. I think it's the right thing to do for them. They gave up a lot to get him. His production is tremendous. He is unique in, I don't want to say he's a unicorn. There's a lot of running backs that can run and catch the ball. But I'm not sure when you talk about the way a team is designed, that there is any running back that's as more important to what their team wants to do offensively as he is. So it makes sense in that way. It'll get overanalyzed. Does it make sense for every team to pay their running back? I don't think it does. Does it make sense for the 49ers to do it? I think, yeah, it does.
Right.
And this is the right thing for them to do.
And it is the right thing to do. And the thing that I'm still surprised at is that's all he's worth. I mean, when we compare to what receivers have been getting, and you look at the different receivers right now that are still trying to be signed, they're going to get 3 times the money McCaffrey's getting. They're going to get. I mean, it's going to be, and we haven't even seen the biggest signings yet. We're going to see more money than what we've seen. I mean, even with Justin Jefferson, we're going to see more money signed with about 4 or 5 of those receivers that are still out there. It's going to be incredible. And it just makes me think, when I saw the numbers with Christian McCaffrey, my first thought was, that's a pretty good deal. That's a pretty good bargain for the 49ers, what he brings to the table. And you just covered a little bit of it, 1,400 yards plus, 14 touchdowns, plus what he brings with the ability to catch the ball. And of course, the thing is, you can line him up in so many positions. I mean, you can line him up a lot of places, and that makes a huge difference. Not every running back is comfortable, unless they're 5 yards behind the quarterback or off to the side of the quarterback when he's in gun. So I'm just saying that there's a difference. This guy is special, and he brings something special to a team. And I don't know if that's by design. I don't know if that's by accident, but it just so happens with the set of skills that Christian McCaffrey has. And then you throw them into the mix of what the 49ers try to do. It's pretty good. They're a match that's very well made. And by the way, in the club room, and of course with coaching staff, Kyle Shanahan is going to be one of those guys that this is just perfect for those guys. Perfect for the 49ers.
It is, and it's important. It's the most important part of their offense. So I get it. It's just interesting as nobody pays running backs anymore. They
don't.
They gave up a lot to get him. The receivers are all getting paid. The 49ers are choosing not to do that, but pay the run. It's a little interesting, but I do think it's unique. I don't know that any of this is like trend setting. And I know a lot of people want this to maybe be the thing that helps running backs get paid a little more, but I don't think it's going to be.
Right.
I think this is a one-off kind of thing.
Right. And what is the lifespan? What is the one position that has one of the weakest lifespans just because of the wear and tear on one's body? And my friend, that's running back. Yep. And I get
31 years old. 31 years old. We'll see how that works.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's that's the risk. There is the injury risk is tremendous.
They touch the ball so much, Jacob. That's the problem.
Yeah. Well, they just take a lot of contact, but
that's right.
That's out there. That was an interesting thing to happen. We'll have Kevin Saul coming up, or we believe here in the second hour. We got to get to this K-State transfer on the basketball program. Big time name there. We got to get more into the Royals as we make our way through. A lot to navigate and look ahead to the NBA Finals, which starts tomorrow. Just a little one. We'll do more of that tomorrow, but we'll look at it. It's all coming for you. Sports Daily coming into hour number 2 next.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With more than 25 flavors, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite, or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day for half-price cups of tea. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say, drink tea, be happy. have more than 25 flavors. Come try them all for free. We have more than 25 flavors. Come try them all for free.
Listen to Sports Radio 97.5 and 1240 KFH. This is Sports Daily with Jacob Albracht and Tommy Castor.
I'm going to Wichita.
Hey, Shocker fans, want the latest on Wichita State athletics? Let's go right to the source with Shocker AD Kevin Saul.
All right, welcome in, everybody. Back to hour number 2 of Sports Daily. Glad to be here with you. We'll get you set up here for the second hour, and then we'll jump in with Kevin Saul, Wichita State Athletic Director. First thing, we'll tell you that you can catch our video stream, which is available for you on Facebook, on YouTube, and on X. So find that. Just search for KFH. We appreciate you watching that way or listening, however it is you're taking in the show. The IHOP hotline, which is where we have Kevin Saul, is coming to you because of IHOP. We appreciate their support as well. Kevin, welcome in. We're going to give people a contest, and then we'll get into this. So comedian Nick Swardson coming to Wichita Century 2 Concert Hall on Sunday, September 29th. You can enter to win that right now by texting the keyword JOKES, JOKES, to 20357. One entry a day until Friday, June 7th. 10 lucky winners will get a pair of tickets. Again, that's the word JOKES to 20357. Kevin Saul in with us. Kevin, how are you? We are officially into the summer, I suppose.
Well, we're getting there for sure. I'm doing well. Thanks for having us on the show. You guys doing okay?
We're doing good. We got me and Paul here today. It's always an adventure when we get Paul Savage on the other side. But we're excited to have you in. It's sort of a, I know it's not for you guys, but for us, it's sort of a settling of things. You guys have things coming up. We've got a big softball tournament coming up there on campus I want to talk about. We get a date yesterday, though, maybe the most topical. Wichita State, K-State in the Roundhouse is coming for us next season, Saturday, December 21st. How excited are you to get that game at Charles Koch Arena? It's always fun to get it in Wichita. It's always fun to play games in Wichita, this rivalry game. But to have it at Koch Arena does feel a little bit different.
Yeah, you know, we understand Koch Arena is a special place, and it is not a regular occurrence that we're able to get a Power 5 opponent in Koch Arena for a very specific reason, because as we've walked through scheduling conversations these last many months, folks, for whatever reason, are a little hesitant to get into Charles Koch Arena because I think they understand the special place and the intimidating environment that it is, because our fans do such a great job. So we're looking forward to it. It's really the fourth and final game in a 4-game contract that was executed prior to my arrival. And we will certainly make best effort to continue that with some of our other geographic rivals and move forward. But we're excited about the date and just trying to finish up one last spot on the roster. We got guys here for summer access right now practicing. In fact, they're all out on the floor this morning. Our women's basketball team is back getting ready for their trip to the U.S. Virgin Islands, and we've got volleyball currently in Brazil right now competing. So it's been a busy few weeks here for us.
You know, Kevin, one of the things that I find interesting in today's world is the movement of basketball players and coaches within the system, and of course, the portal has a lot to do with that. And I saw this. We even brought this up a week ago when I was on the show. We brought this up. It looks like Calipari went to Arkansas, and you're probably as well aware of this as anybody. One of the guarantees that he got for taking this position at the University of Arkansas as head coach of the basketball program was they guaranteed him $15 million of NIL. $15 million of NIL is a lot of money that makes basketball players going to the University of Arkansas millionaires on a yearly basis. What was your, and I'm assuming you've heard about this, what was your initial reaction when you hear these kind of numbers being floated around amongst, say, SEC teams or Big 12 teams, or what does that do to you? What's your feelings on that kind of money going into NIL?
Well, at first, Paul, I'm probably going to be a little skeptical just because there's no way to validate that. There's really no true transparency.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, we've got institutions that are throwing numbers out there that we know based on, back channel conversations and the way the recruiting process works, that those numbers are not accurate, but it intrigues the interest of young people and advisors and agents and all those things. And so it's a little bit of a publicity and recruiting ploy. At the end of the day, I'm not surprised that there is a what I would call a fighting fund that's been created at a place like that. There are at a lot of places, the level just varies a little bit. But I think from a movement standpoint, Paul, I try to focus on what we've got going on here. And when you look at it contextually, you can look at through a couple of lenses. Number one, the lens of 353 Division I athletic programs and nearly 2,000 young people in the portal for men's basketball. If you do that math, it's going to be somewhere around 7 or 8 per roster. So that's about half the roster. And remember, that doesn't include graduation or exhausted eligibility. So right. Most programs, if you were to average it across the country, probably 8 or 9 out of 15 roster spots. When you look specifically at the American Athletic Conference, I think it becomes a very interesting conversation because we were ranked 7th in the list of 32 leagues in terms of power conferences, the way our conference net finished out last year. So in terms of conference strength, we were 7th out of 32 leagues last year. Well, the 6 that are above us are the Power 5 and the Big East. Right. So what does that mean from a player churn or a roster turnover perspective? Well, what it means is if you're really performing well in the American Athletic Conference, you're likely moving up to the Power 5 or the Big East. Right. If you're not, you're likely moving down to conferences 8 through 32. And so what has bore out the last 4 years is that the American Athletic Conference has seen over 4 years the most churn on their rosters of any league in the country. This past portal season was 112 on 14 institutions. So you do that math. What is that? 6.5, 7 per. I'm here to tell you that we're not going to bat 1,000, but I think our staff and our coaches are doing a great job. We've had 3 with playing time leave our program. So we are well ahead of the curve in terms of roster continuity and transitions out. We're really excited about the guys that are coming back from the squad last year, and very, very excited about the new young men that are coming into our program. We've got one more spot to solidify. But I say that all to say, Paul, that it's an unwieldy environment, and I think our coaches and staff are navigating it about as good as you can, and certainly better than the average peer.
That summer work begins now, by the way, for folks that may have missed it yesterday. To hear about some of those new players and what maybe they can bring to the table, you can go back and either to kfhradio.com or to the video stream and check out the interview yesterday right off the top of the show with Paul Mills to get some insight there. Kevin, in that light, sort of, we get news last week that it is what we sort of expected, and really probably some of what we've been dealing with, that transfers are not going to be anymore, one time and then you got to set it. It sounds like it's just going to be all the time people can transfer. I look at this, and I'm always fascinated by this stuff, and I think that with me. But when recently, I try to draw some comparison. Recently, the FTC said you could put no more like non-competes in contracts. Everyone's like, all right, that's great, for everything. I'm like, it's not really great for small business, because now the big guys can just come poach all their best talent. I don't know if this ruling with the transfer portal changes much when there's no threat of having to sit out. Do you think that changes much, or were we already sort of there? And when we think about that probably hurts smaller schools more than it does bigger schools, right? Or am I looking at that the wrong way?
No, I think you're looking through the right lens. I do think that it cuts both ways, Jacob. If you consider, there's 2 ways to get at a desired outcome. You can either do it through punishment, or you can do it through positive reinforcement, right? They go back to psychology 101. And the punishment component is the way that it's always been. You have to sit out a year. There's a year in residence. Well, I think the world that we're headed to is probably some sort of multi-year agreements that bind individuals to organizations, not dissimilar to a coaching contract or an employment contract or whatever the case may be. I want to be very, very clear that I'm not advocating for employment for student athletes. But at the end of the day, I think you get to longevity and continuity through a positive way. And there's certainly a route for us to do that. I will share with you guys that, we have talked on your show, and there certainly are plenty of wrongdoers, if you will, throughout the industry. We have firsthand knowledge of coaches that are telling young people whatever it takes to get them to their institution with no intent whatsoever in following through on those commitments. We're not going to operate that way at Wichita State, even if that puts us at a competitive disadvantage. We're going to be mindful of character and integrity, and we're going to do what we say we're going to do. At the same time, I think what may be less well known in the public's eye is that with all this movement comes opportunities for certain segments of the industry, like agents and advisors, right? So now you have a group of individuals that might be mining or fishing for specific profiles. You might have a young person that sits in your office on exit interviews, exit meetings, and says, yeah, I love the program. I love what you're doing. I love the coaching staff. I don't want to go anywhere. I'm prepared to tell the Power Five that I'm going to stay at Wichita State. And then you may have an agent that calls and says, hey, we can do this for you over the next 3 years. And the agent's prepping for a potential professional career where that individual would select the agency as their agent. So you might do a great job of fending off other programs, but you also have to fend off other individuals who might have vested interest in player movement, and agents are one of those.
That's very interesting. And at this point, I think those are words that I think that you certainly believe in, and I think, and I'm with you on all that. Let me change topic real quick. I just noticed, I guess it's probably been within the last couple of days, that you've got some price reductions on seating for men's basketball and some opportunities for lower prices. Cover what's going on with seating in Koch Arena. Lay it on me. What you got going out there with deals that people might say it's time to get back to the Roundhouse?
Paul, I appreciate you asking that because we talked on earlier this week as a staff that we think it's very, very important to stay dialed into the issues and concerns of our fan base, those that are constructive and relevant, and all of those elements. And so, you guys, we've talked about. We did that first summer that we came in. This would be 2 years ago. We did 4 different listening sessions, produced about 170 unique pieces of feedback. So that's one example of us listening. And there's been many of those examples. We keep our eye on social media to try and pull out constructive and relevant themes. And one of the things that we've heard is that we need a different entry point for season ticket holders in Koch Arena. And so what you've read here this last week on Monday morning, we released basically bookend opportunities. One is an incredibly affordable. It's about $200 off what was our previous lowest season ticket. In sections 125 and 126, which is upper bowl end zone, for young people to get in that desire to support the Shockers and support local college athletics here in Wichita. And so we're pushing that hard because we want to inject new, young individuals. We want to be the Disneyland, right? We want to have something for everybody, which brings us to the second point, which is we have creatively and strategically gotten to a spot where we're going to offer 32 additional floor seats, and they will be in the end zone. So that big tunnel that's in the end zone that's on the north side will basically have a set of 16 seats on the northwest corner and a set of 16 seats on the southeast corner, right next to our bench, where our bench dead ends into that wall. We'll have 16 seats there as well. And I think of the 32 that we've offered, I think we're closing in on half of those are sold. So that certainly is helpful as we navigate the new financial realities of college athletics as we move forward. So again, Paul, I think it's just we're trying to be nimble and responsive. And when Shocker Nation talks, we try to listen and execute some ideas that might fit within the parameters of their desires.
Kevin Saul joining us here, Wichita State Athletic Director. Lots of things changing, ticket information, not necessarily the Shockers, but Wichita State will be featured here in this softball tournament coming to Wichita. How much do you guys have to do with this? Of course, Sydney McKinney, the headliner for us here, coming in for some pro softball that by all accounts is really awesome stuff. It gets televised, but Wilkins Stadium is going to be front and center here starting. Are we less than a week away? Yeah, June 10th here to June 16th. How much do you guys have to do with that, and how excited should people be about this event coming in to Wichita?
Yeah, it's a really remarkable event where this has come in the last several years. So Athletes Unlimited is an entity that hosts professional softball in the summer. And if I'm not mistaken, Jacob, if I'm reading all the releases correctly, this is likely the last year of this format, that they're likely going to go to franchise-based teams that will travel around either in the next year or the year after. But the format for this year is basically we're hosting 19 games in Wilkins Stadium. And those games start next week. We've got 2 on Monday, games 1 and 2, and I think they go through the end of June. Yeah, the 25th is game
25th,
18. Yeah. Yep. So it's awesome because it's not dissimilar to TBT, where you have a national audience and you've got a chance to engage your local fan base. But every single one of those games is on linear TV, Jacob and Paul. So it's like you're going to see that Shocker in center field for 18, 19 games on ESPN, ESPNU, ESPN2, wow, which is great exposure for our program and for our university and for the city of Wichita. And so we're really excited to host it. We're excited to host the TBT. People ask us all the time, does the summer slow down a little bit for you? The answer is no, because we're trying to do events like this and state championships and all of those things to help elevate the profile of our programs.
It is a busy time. We love the TBT. I hope this has the same sort of vibe. We know that there has been a softball audience created here because of the hard work of Coach Bredbender and the softball team, and it'll be awesome to have Sydney McKinney out there, and I think people are going to hear from them tomorrow. Colleagues over at KWCH will have some of that for you. So get ready for that. It'll be fun. Hopefully you guys get some good weather. And just one more thing coming on this summer. We'll do this again in a couple of weeks, Kevin. I want to let the dust settle a little bit on baseball and see how the portal works out for you, but we'll get your take on all of that as we make our way through these summer months. So we'll let that settle in, see how that's going. You guys have your hands full. Tickets to that event, Athletes Unlimited, are coming. Check out GoShockers.com to get the info on the seating and the pricing there for Wichita State basketball as well. Enjoy the slow time there, Kevin, this offseason.
There you go.
All right, guys, I appreciate it. Thanks for having us on the show, and go Shockers.
There goes Kevin Saul, Wichita State Athletic Director. Lots of good stuff. You can go back and listen to that, by the way, if you missed any of it. If you want that insight and that info on the tickets, I appreciate you bringing that up, Paul. I had not seen that.
Yeah, and by the way, just one quick thing. Congratulations to Kevin Saul and his staff. Shockers, this was just released on Friday. Shockers going to host the 2024 AAC volleyball tournament. And I had a daughter that played 4 years of college volleyball, and you know how much I love college volleyball for women. It's tremendous, and they are such great athletes.
One of my favorite sports.
Oh, me too.
I'm with you. Sports.
I'll find myself trickling in and out of Coke Arena a bunch during that tournament. I can tell you that.
I used to call all the games of everything in college. Like that was a part of college. Like I called every sport, all of it, and I always tell people, I don't think I had more fun calling anything. There you go.
That's right.
Than volleyball.
I
had so much fun covering volleyball that way.
I
definitely got into volleyball in college. That's for sure. All right. So you can go back and listen to any of that. We're going to continue the conversation. We need to get into the NBA finals. We'll just take a little bird's eye look here today.
Oh, okay. That's
get
fine.
Paul's thoughts. We'll look at some betting with the finals, see if we want to take a swing at any of that. We'll have more on that tomorrow, but we'll open the can a little bit with it today. That's coming up for you here as that series with the Celtics and the Mavs begins tomorrow. Don't go away. It's Albracht and Savage at Sports Daily. Chad Chambers, man in the IHOP hotline. We got more for you right after this.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With more than 25 flavors, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day for half-price cups of tea. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say drink tea, be happy. We have more than 25 flavors. Come try them all for free.
Welcome back, everybody. Don't forget, comedian Nick Swartzen coming to Wichita on September 29th. You can get some tickets. Enter to win by texting the keyword JOKES, JOKES, to 20357. You get one entry a day until Friday. We'll have 10 lucky winners. Good luck there. We do welcome in Tommy Castor. Look who strolled in.
Tommy Castor, yeah.
Good to be with you guys.
Tommy will join us the rest of the way. I'll have you for the rest of this segment. Then I got to bounce. Fellas, I got to do, Paul, this seems like you might have some insight here. Now, I got to go down and help MC an event at Miss Kansas in Pratt this evening.
Yeah.
I'm just, how do I get up there and not upstage all these talented young women?
Oh,
I'm worried. You might have insight there. How do you not steal the show in a situation?
Well,
like
my
that?
first suggestion is don't wear shorts because your legs would, obviously be competing with, the other contestants'
I'd
legs.
lose that.
So,
yeah,
so
my
don't,
chicken legs.
wear pants.
Would they be competing because of how pale he is? Like it's gonna just attract attention with how white and pasty his legs are.
I'm gonna stand out here, and probably not for all the right reasons, but if you're in Pratt, you're part of that, really cool event. They've added a day. If you're around there, say hi tonight. I'll be out there.
I think that's cool.
I'm told I'll have a blast, and I believe them.
Well, you need somebody to carry your
really early. I got to wake up really early and haul butt back here to be on the show tomorrow. So it might be a little red-eyed in the morning.
There you go. Well, do you need anybody to carry your briefcase?
I do not. I got it. I got it. A couple real quick hitters here, and I know Tommy wants to get back into the Royals, and you guys can do that a little bit in the next segment. A couple quick hitters we haven't talked about.
All right.
First, K-State kind of finishes the class, I think, in basketball with Ugonna Onyenso. He was, by most accounts, the top center in the portal that was there still. He comes in from Kentucky. It's difficult. You're not going to look up his numbers and see anything jarring, except that he's one of the best shot blockers in the country. And we were, as this news broke yesterday, and we were getting together some highlight video of him. I mean, this dude can run. He's an athlete, and he is absolutely going to make this team better. And it just furthers in. Guys, I think, Tommy, I think K-State has put together a roster here that ought to be expecting to be top 4 in the Big 12. I really, really like this group, and I think it's quite clearly the most talented collectively Jerome Tang has had so far.
Well, I think they're going to be good. I think it's going to be a question about, how quickly can they come together? And that's the way that it is every year with, teams now with, the transfer portal and that sort of thing. But what I will say about, this particular transfer is really in today's college basketball, so many teams are looking for that big that can also stretch the floor, the guy that can get up and down, the guy that can even create offense. And that's something that I think that the Wildcats, to an extent have lacked. And really, even I think you have to go back to, Keontae Johnson. And he, I don't know if you would classify him as a traditional big, in that way, but he was still able to stretch the floor and create offense. They've needed a playmaker like that has that size, that has that length, and that has that athleticism. So, I think this is a really great addition for Jerome Tang, and it does round out the class. And that has been, I think, an area where, clearly everyone has identified, if you're going to do anything else in the portal, Jerome Tang, you got to address this. And he did. And so credit to him for making that happen.
Well, and Paul, they have a lot of, big forwards, but this at least gives them the more traditional center to pair with David Gasson, which is what they needed. They seem to have, and again, and Tommy's right, like we have to see how it gels, but at least on paper, I think they've checked all the boxes. They found a point guard. They found a couple of guards for depth. They'll have a little bit there coming back. They've got a couple talented freshmen coming in that will help there as well. And they just have depth, far more depth, than they've had. They've been thin, I think, for the entirety of Jerome Tang's. Now, are we saying that this group is sure to make a run to the, to the Elite Eight and all these things like that? No, I don't. I think that's unfair. I just think it is absolutely appropriate to be way excited if you're a K-State fan, because as June 5th go, this is the best group on a June 5th that we've seen. Now, again, the other stuff has to take care of itself, but Tang's going to have his guys this time, Paul. How much, what is expectation, I think, always starts with making the NCAA tournament, but I think this can be a top 4 or 5 team in the Big 12, don't you?
Yeah, I do. And by the way, a shot blocker, how much value does that have in a conference like the Big 12? It's a lot. It changes the way other teams attack the basket when it comes to Kansas State. And by the way, I just think to myself, when I see the name Kentucky behind a recruit, is it just me, or do I think this guy, there's talent? I mean, just the fact that he was at Kentucky on a scholarship tells me that he's a player. So with that being said, this is a big get, and it's a big get not only size-wise, but also from where this program came. So you're right. This team, I think, just checked the box that now lets them be maybe that top 3, top 4, and compete in and out every night, on the road, at home, wherever they're at. I like this. I like this class. And I get the sense that this might be that first really good class that K-State is now figuring these things out. And this is a process, isn't it, Tommy? This is a process of how do you learn to get the right guys out of the portal to come to your place. And I think it's a process. But I'll tell you what, this is probably Jerome Tang's best job dealing with the portal. Now, I know it's all new or fairly new, but I mean, this is by
he had
far.
2 NBA guys, right? He had 2 NBA guys. Marquise Noel was a holdover, and then he got Keontae Johnson.
Right.
That's what I mean. I think you have to look at it as a right now thing, not like a where it ended for them. But I do think it's the best group, and I think people can get excited about it and do all those things because it'll be fun. We should have, some really high level college basketball on different fronts next year from a few different places. Let's look at the NBA finals real quick. It starts tomorrow. I don't know what you guys are thinking on this. We haven't talked about this, but there are interesting things. I'm at ESPN Bet now, and it's almost like they're trying to bait you into the Celtics. They're 6.5 point favorites in game 1. Guys, I kind of like the Mavericks in this series. We don't know about Kristaps Porzingis yet. If we're going star power to star power, I think you would nod to Luka and Kyrie versus Tatum and Brown, right? I think the Celtics are probably top to bottom a little better. They're historically good in the regular season. But there's something here with the Mavs. You got that Kyrie Irving back in Boston storyline. This is as good, I think, on paper going into a finals as we've seen in a little while. I love this series. I think this is going to be great. I hope it's great. I could be way off. I don't, watch as much NBA as I used to. But I think the Mavericks have a chance here. They're moderately big underdogs in this series. Tommy, where are you leaning on this series?
Well, first off, I think both teams have a lot to prove. And I think that for the Celtics, they have to prove that they are far and away the best team in the NBA. They've been the team, from the start of the playoffs to now that I think, if you had to pick a favorite, they've probably been that team from the very beginning to now. And so they've got that to prove, one final step to go in that process to win a championship. And then for the Mavericks, I don't know if the Mavericks themselves have a bunch to prove, but I do think Kyrie Irving has a bunch to prove. And maybe by default, that would mean that the Mavs have a lot to prove as well, to show that acquisition of Kyrie Irving ended up being a good thing for them. And I remember I was very critical of that acquisition because of just the track record, right? And the track record of, why would you bring a guy like Kyrie Irving, who has had multiple situations where he has damaged a team's locker room rapport and, by all accounts, hasn't been a good teammate, hasn't been happy in his situation, always causing drama, that sort of thing. And I remember thinking at the time, I understand that it would be great to give Luka a running mate, but at the same time, do you really want to run the risk of bringing in Kyrie Irving and disrupting what Luka and, everybody else has going on there with that organization? And will Kyrie be okay with, not being the number one guy on that team? It's going to be Luka. And will Luka be okay with knowing that you've got a teammate in Kyrie that is going to want to demand attention in the spotlight and that sort of thing? And here we are. I don't remember exactly when that acquisition was made. A little over a year ago. It was in the middle of last season.
Yeah.
Here we are, and the Mavs are in the NBA Finals, and it's worked out. Will it always work out? Who knows? I'm not going to hold my breath because it's Kyrie Irving, but at the same time, right now it is working. And so I think that there is pressure, to show that was the right move and the right acquisition for this franchise to take on.
It's interesting too. I think there was a little of that with Kristaps Porzingis when he came to Boston. Not to the same level, but Kyrie right now is a 14-1 bet if you wanted to look at him as a Finals MVP. And I don't think that's outrageous. There will be, he'll have that benefit of storyline. And I'm guilty of this too, Paul, with Kyrie Irving. It is so easy to be distracted by some of the things that he has said and some of his, like off the court behavior as far as being disruptive to a franchise. He is one of the more talented and best point guards we've ever seen. His peers think so. LeBron James certainly thinks so. But there are people that believe offensively and creatively he is the best that we've ever seen. But we forget those things. And now he's got this chance again with a guy who reminds us all of LeBron James in Luka Doncic, that does some of the same types of things LeBron James has done, at least on the court. And I think he's an interesting character in all of this. Can they overcome the juggernaut of Boston? I don't know, man. But how excited are you, Paul, just to see Kyrie Irving embrace, going into Boston in game one where he scuffed up the Celtic in the middle of the floor and done all those things, and Luka is the world-renowned trash talker that he is. This is going to be there's going to be some juice here. This is going to be pretty intense.
Well, as you know, I followed the NBA all the way through from the start to the end. And I'm one of those guys that'll sit down and watch some NBA early in the season. Now, I'm not saying I sit and watch all 4 quarters of an NBA game, but I'll catch a quarter here, quarter there, watch a bunch of teams and that kind of thing. And I'll be real truthful. Just when I start thinking I know a lot about the NBA, I had the Denver Nuggets winning the whole thing. Well, how did that work out for me? Not too well, obviously. But this is an interesting series. I'll tell you why. I thought you would probably be with me in this camp, Jacob, but I don't think you are. My thoughts were is that my heart is with the Mavericks, but my head is with the Celtics. Thought the Celtics from top to bottom. Once you get on the other side of Doncic and Irving, that you get to a point where, yeah, the Celtics, they're talented. They've got, and particularly Brown and Tatum. I mean, they are as good as in this
Historically good.
Yeah,
Historically good.
And what 3 out of 4 or 4 out of 5? What is it? Top, whatever it is, championship finals.
Sure,
I mean, come on, they're good.
But I don't think that anybody has put them in that category of
great.
the Golden
right.
States of the world and things like that.
You're right.
Because they haven't closed it out.
They haven't finished it. That's right. That's exactly right. But this is so fascinating. And Luka Doncic is one of the most fun players to watch. And I said this last week, Tommy, and I don't know if you'd agree with it. I think he's probably the most unathletic superstars we've ever seen. But
unathletic looking.
Okay, looking. I mean,
because he's incredibly
incredibly good, and he's such a great shooter, and he brings so much. And we complimented Luka on his ability to pass. I don't know that we've ever seen. I guess we're going to refer to Pete Maravich twice in one show, which maybe we shouldn't do. It goes back too far. But I think Luka might be one of the best passers to play this game since. And there have been a lot of good ones, don't get me wrong. And obviously it's just an opinion. But that guy seems to be able to put balls where it doesn't seem it's possible to get balls fitted into on passes. And this is going to be fun. I'm rooting for the Mavericks, partly because, I love Texas. I mean, it's the only other state other than Kansas I've ever lived in for a period of time is the state of Texas. So I got to say that I am rooting for Dallas. No particular love for the Boston Celtics. I have no reason for that other than the fact that, they're 800 miles away. But with that being said, I think that that overall, top to bottom, I think probably the Celtics got a little better personnel. Tatum and Brown are unbelievable, and they have a good shot of winning this championship. The one thing, before I give up my microphone here, I want this game to go 7 games. Tommy, I want this game to be played out. I want a Game 7 final because I want to enjoy this NBA Finals.
I'm not sure that the Mavs have the firepower to take down the Celtics overall, but the last time the Mavericks won an NBA championship was what, Jacob? 2011? Was that when they won it last? I believe, whenever that was.
The Mavericks?
Yeah. 2011, yes. I think was that year that they did that. And I don't know if you recall this, Jacob, but at least I remember feeling like at that time, not that the Mavs were lucky necessarily, but I don't think that team was necessarily built to win a championship. They just found themselves in that spot. They worked their way through the playoffs and ultimately won it all. But I don't really, obviously Dirk was, the guy, but it didn't really seem like they were a team that everybody expected to compete for a championship, and they did. This year, I think it's different because even though the Celtics overall are going to be the favorites and they have more firepower, the Mavs are built for this. The Mavs are built to win a championship. And that's what they've been working towards. And so, again, I go back to expectations. That's probably why I would put at least a little bit of expectations on the shoulders of Dallas in this series.
Yeah, they were 3 seed that year. That was a part of I would say that they were built to win it. About 5 years before that is when they had that epic collapse to the Heat in the finals. And then they were around 50 or more wins every year there for a long stretch. Dirk is an all-time great player. They did build themselves up to that with their roster. They finally got Tyson Chandler. He was sort of their missing piece to be like an enforcer for a team that was kind of considered soft at the time, and it worked out. But yeah, I think, look, they had a longer build to this, even though I think we forget, at least I do, as somebody who pays a lot of attention to the Mavericks, that they reached the Western Conference Finals 2 years ago.
Right.
Right.
Well, yeah.
So, but with a very different roster, like it's been, there is not a basketball front office that's been on a heater, I don't think, like the Mavs have been on lately. They've got, Jason Kidd from bringing him in as coach, now to the Irving trade, to the tanking at the end of the season so they could get lively. Like they've like hit it all. And I think they're probably, I don't know what went wrong in the regular season. I don't know why they ended up finishing 5th, but I think this is a team that has felt like it could get to this point and it was close. Remember when they let Jalen Brunson go? You went from one of the all-time bad decisions to fixing it immediately. Would you trade right now? Do you think the Mavericks in this moment would trade Kyrie Irving for Brunson?
That's a good question. And by the way,
I don't know.
Kyrie Irving is that one thing. And it seems like now you listen to interviews that he does after games, he seems to be happy. He seems to be happy.
I agree.
And that goes a long way with maybe this being
it does for him.
Yeah,
it does for him
because he is a unique personality. Now I'm not saying that he's
happy right now. He's happy. He's happy right now.
They need him to be happy for about 2 more weeks.
That's right.
And then you don't have to worry about it.
That's right. But he is happy, and that says a lot. But Kyrie Irving has 1 or 2 championship rings, so it's not like that.
He's got his with Cleveland.
Yep, yeah, that's right. So there you go. So he's got it. He knows what it takes, and this is his chance. And by the way, he's running out of time. I mean, you get to the point. We all get to that point where you run out of time to do the things you need to do in the world of sports, and he's running out of time. I mean, he's getting up there. He's into his 30s now. Time to win. Time is limited. Let's get a win. Be a champion. One more chance to be a champion if you're Kyrie Irving.
Luka's trash talk versus Celtic fan trash talk is probably going to be my favorite thing that happens in this series. We'll get that. We'll get more into it.
Hey,
tomorrow.
He's going to have to get special security escorts in and out of that
while
he's
actually on the court.
He's in
like
Boston.
They're gonna yeah. He will embrace it, and it will be so much fun. But we'll take a closer look tomorrow. All right. I'm going to step out, Tommy, and Paul will take you the rest of the way. Jad's man in that IHOP hotline. Lots to come. More Royals talk. I know they have. We'll see you back here tomorrow. You fellas enjoy the rest of your day. Sports Daily coming right back.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With more than 25 flavors, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day for half-price cups of tea. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say, drink tea, be happy. have more than 25 flavors. Come try them all for free.
All right, welcome back, everybody. It's Sports Daily here on KFH. Tommy Castor, Paul Savage, getting you the rest of the way here on this Wednesday edition. Paul, just a couple of minutes until our final break. I've not had a chance because I came into the show late to talk about the Royals at all. Obviously, an epic meltdown from Kansas City last night in that opening game of what is definitely the most important series of their season so far. The Royals fall to Cleveland 8-5. They're now 5 games back of the Guardians. The second game of the 3-game set is this evening. Brady Singer pitching for the Royals, Nick Sandlin pitching for the Guardians. You know, I don't think that we can overstate the importance of them needing not only this win tonight, but another win tomorrow. As far as pressure is concerned for Kansas City, where do you think it stands right now as far as the way that they should be feeling after last night?
Well, there's a lot of pressure on them, and obviously it's on themselves. They put it on themselves.
Yep. Because
guys like you and me are going, you know something, this is the best we had for Kansas City for quite a while. And so, you know, you and I wouldn't be the kind of guys to put pressure on them, but they're putting it on themselves. They're pros. They want to do well. But man, it's big. It's big. I mean, here's a chance. You've got the division leader right in front of you. You're playing those guys that you need to catch up to. You can't give them games. You can't give them games, particularly like with the way it happened last night. Tie game. You know, and then the debacle with Bobby Witt Jr. Missing second base on a double play, and then the missed throw, 3-run score. Oh,
very un-Bobby Witt like,
very un-Bobby Witt,
something that we see from him on a regular basis, obviously. And he had another great offensive game, so I'm sure that in his mind that's overshadowed by,
of course,
the error that he had and all of that. And
it's
you mentioned the word deflating, and it definitely is. It's going to be, I think, really difficult for the Royals to get back in the right headspace to continue on this series tonight and tomorrow night after the way. It wasn't just the fact that they lost last night. It was the way in which they lost. And they get out to a lead. They blow that lead. Seth Lugo didn't have, a great game. It was very un-Seth Lugo-like this season for Kansas City. They've got to bounce back, though, and they've got to bounce back quickly. If they lose this game, They're 6 games back of the Guardians. They lose tomorrow. They're 7 games back. We've talked about how tough their schedule is even after this series over the next couple of weeks, and it could, again, spiral out of control for Kansas City. So you've got to stem the tide. The pressure is on you, though. They've got to figure out a way to get it done tonight.
Well, Witt and Perez, they're key in this. Get this team over it. Be team leaders. This is behind us. And then just be the team leader. A lot of this is on them because they are the de facto team leaders of the Kansas City Royals.
It's another 5:40 first pitch. All the coverage you'll be able to hear right here on KFH. We'll take our final timeout. On the other side, we'll let you know what's up on the network today. It's Sports Daily on KFH, and we'll be right back.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With more than 25 flavors, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day for half-price cups of tea. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say, drink tea, be happy. We have more than 25 flavors. Come try them all for free.
baseball. Pre-game coverage from Cleveland. An extremely important game kicks off at 5:30. First pitch at 5:40 tonight as the Royals take on the Guardians in game number 2 in that series. Tomorrow on the program, Tim Fitzgerald, GoPowerCat.com, will join us. Going to be a great show for Jacob Albracht, for our friend Paul Savage. I'm Tommy Castor. We'll see you back here tomorrow, everybody.